Good evening. Good evening. I am so excited that you guys are with me tonight. This is going to be an awesome occasion. I'm so excited to introduce to you. I don't know if it's my fifth, sixth, seventh, whatever book, but this is a great book. I'm so excited about this one in particular. And I'm excited for so many different reasons. As I've been doing this work on connectedness and belonging, I've been noticing that sometimes people don't know it's just a real simple message. Remember treating people the way you want it to be treated? That's what we're talking about tonight. And we're talking about different spaces such as our faith communities. And we're also talking about the relationship with ourselves. Oftentimes we try to help everybody else. We try to do everything for everyone else, but the relationship that we often miss is the relationship with ourselves. The first person before I introduce, I want to remind you, the book is up. It is live. You can order the book right now. Go to my website, themessages.net. That's themessages.net, and order the book right now. You can get audio, you can get paperback, we have digital copies, we have everything that you need. So I just want you to know we're excited that you're here tonight, and we want you to participate. Don't be out there dead and all of that kind of stuff. We need you to talk back to us. We're so excited. I have some amazing guests tonight. I got my boy Tori. He is always up for a great conversation, and we go way back. And then I have Dr. Reed, who was my supervisor for me as a licensed professional counselor back in the day, and just a phenomenal lady. And we're just going to get into it. So I want to introduce Dr. Reed, and I want her to just give us a little bit about herself and her background and all that she has in store.
Hi. Thanks for having me, Danny.
I'm excited. I'm excited.
Me too.
Yes.
I love how you say, I don't know, it's my fifth, sixth book.
Who knows?
You know what? People need to buy all of them.
Come on now.
They do.
Buy all of them.
Buy all
Dr.
of them.
Reed. Dr.
Yes.
Reed said buy all of them. Yes.
It's true.
Dr. Reed, please tell us a little bit about yourself and, why this message is important to you tonight.
Oh gosh. I mean, this is such a message that needs to be heard in so many arenas for sure. I am a therapist. I guess just a little bit about me. I've been practicing in private practice for about 13 years now. And the last 10 years, I had the privilege of developing a dual license program, an LPC, LMFT license program in Texas. So I I don't even know how many students turned out, probably I don't know, 100 or so, maybe a little more than that, who are practicing now all over the place. So that's been really cool. I am really passionate about people being people being able to be themselves, like teaching therapists. And I actually developed my program at a seminary. So I was excited to read part of what you wrote about the faith communities and how those can be so alienating at some occasions. So I actually got to meet Danny before I was in private practice. I was a school counselor. So I worked with high school and elementary age kids and taught emotionally disturbed kids as well. And just have had a lot of experience in different arenas where I've gotten to know some amazing people. And so I'm thankful.
Thank you so much for joining us tonight and sharing with us your background. We know that it's going to be a great conversation and you're going to add so much to our dialogue. I'm going to bring my boy on here. You stay on here for me, Dr. Reed, and I'm going to bring Tori Shumpert on here as well. All right. I'm calling you Dr. Reed. Dr. Shumpert. Hey, Tori Shumpert is with us tonight.
Hey, I feel like this is a setup. You brought on the expert, and now you brought on the patient. I'm the patient. Am I the patient?
You ain't the patient tonight. You one of the experts tonight. You are one of the experts tonight. Now,
thank you for having me, man.
Go ahead.
Thank you for having me. Look, I'm so proud of you. The books are excellent, but I'm so upset with you. This book in particular makes me peel back so many layers. I'm tired of feeling.
That's what we want. We want you to be connected with yourself. Yes.
No, I am a Southern black man. I'm supposed to suppress my feelings and die with a hurt stomach. I'm not supposed to have feelings or be vulnerable. I'm supposed to be tough and hard and never share my feelings and be the rock.
So Tori, that's old school thinking. I'm so excited because even in my practice, I'm seeing men who are raising themselves up in their communities and letting other brothers know and sisters out there know that it's okay to go to therapy. It is okay to go to therapy because at some point, we're all going to go through some life issues and we need some support, but we got to know how to ask for that help when we need help. But you get me off topic, Tori. What I need for you right now, tell me a little bit about yourself and why this topic is so important to you.
Well, I'm a husband and a father of two beautiful girls, and we went to school together, Danny. I guess we've known each other 30, 35 years. We go so far back and well, I forgot you're 29. You are 29.
Come on now.
Yes. Look, so my areas of expertise are business. My masters are in business. My certifications are Six Sigma. That's engineering. So I'm accustomed to dealing with facts and numbers. Feelings are something that I didn't grow up being allowed to truly express, because you don't want to be ostracized for being overly sensitive, or you don't want to fit in any negative category of a Southern black male. So this particular book means something to me, this subject, because I think it's the toothache in the black community. It's the thing that we walk around hiding, that we want to be able to tell somebody, I'm hurting. What happens is so many people have a church hurt, a family hurt, a community hurt, and then it comes out as anger and violence.
Oh, exactly.
Because we don't know how to communicate, how to be received, how to be receptive of a black man having feelings.
You know, Tori,
having a need.
As you talk about that, I think about when I do my presentation on connection and belonging. So much of what I talk about are our stories, are our messaging. Sometimes those messages that we've received as youth, they're jacked up, they're messed up. And then sometimes those messages are really good, but sometimes we need to have our own messages. We need to set the pace for our own families and not necessarily do what people think we should do, but what works for you, what works for your family. And I always say, sometimes we just sit there and we think that people are just the way they are. No, they're backdrops that make us who we are. So I'm excited that you are here with us tonight. We're going to go in. We're going to have this church. Somebody said church, family, and community. Yes, you listen.
Yes.
Thank you for coming out tonight. So I want to bring Dr. Reed on here for a second. I really want both of you out here on the floor, Dr. Reed and Tori. So what I want to ask you guys tonight, what are some small ways that you notice that people can help others connect in the community? Ways that we can show others that they belong, they fit in, and that we want them around. I see so much isolation and so much division, and this topic means so much to me because it just gets back to that simple message, treating people the way you want to be treated. And I always say at some point, we're all going to be otherized, and nobody likes when that feeling happens to them. And so I want you to hold on to that feeling when it happens so that you'll treat someone in a better way when it happens to you. So I'd love to start with you, Dr. Reed. Could you just share a little bit?
Sure. No, of course. I love that you brought Tori, who's an engineer, on here for us to talk about feelings. I'm proud of you, Tori.
Yes, he does it all.
No, not an engineer, just engineering certification.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah,
I think like that, for example, is an example of what I would answer your question as Danny. It's like, I feel like no relationship is ever wasted. And the connection is in the details.
Come on.
So it's like I just think knowing people and seeing them, not just seeing them with the questions that you ask, which are like, what's your name? What do you do? You know, but it's like really knowing something about them, you know, knowing something that makes them excited or happy or that they're interested in. I think really seeing a person, because just like you said, other eyes, I like that word and that term, but it's like even judged. I would take it further. Because I think people love to judge, and we judge because of insecurity.
Exactly.
And so we put people in a category. Like, for example, I just did that really. If I think about it with Tori, it's like, oh, you're an engineer. Like, now I know how you think. I know how you function, right? And it's like not true, because Tori's his own person. And obviously it's been like such a joy in the few minutes that I've gotten to like see him just talk on here. It's like he's, you know, he's in touch with his emotions, and he talks about that, and he talks about that being something that's important to him, where it's like that judgment would eliminate the opportunity to see him, to really know him, and to know something intimate about him.
So Dr. Reed, what I hear you saying is vulnerability is okay. Learning what makes a person tick, asking those deeper questions. You and I both know people love to come into session and they just, you know, it's like, fix me, know all about me, and we've never met. It's the same in our personal relationships. I don't get close to someone by meeting them one time. It takes intentionality. It takes me trusting you. It takes me knowing that I'm in a safe place. I work with couples a lot of times, and many times they say, oh, we have communication issues. No, you don't have communication issues. Your foundational supports, which are safety and trust, are not intact. If we get safety and trust intact, our communication will elevate. All right, Tori, I'm a transfer it to you before I get carried away. Go ahead, Tori. I want you to answer a question about how can we show others that they can belong and they're valuable?
Say it. Say it. Nike it. Just do it. Look, the easiest way for you to make me feel welcome is to say, welcome. We overcomplicate making people feel welcome. So if I was at your door and you were inviting me in, you would say, sure, come on in.
Right.
We have to get back to the elementary things and say, look, you're welcome here. Make yourself at home. Show people around your community, show people around your space, and say, you know, you're allowed into these spaces. You may enjoy this. Introduce people, welcome people. So you know, I understand that there are layers to people's personalities and what makes a person feel comfortable. But let's start off by just saying you're welcome here. I would like to see how you operate in this space.
That's good. That's good. So I want you to, Jasmine, can you put that on the screen again? Someone said something about we have to be careful about treating others the way you want to be treated. Dr. Lentoria Davis, you're going to hear from her this week. So I'm glad you bringing the goods already. So it says, we have to be careful with this statement. Treat people the way you want to be treated. Hurt people, hurt people. You know what? And ideally, I would like to think that people aren't hurt. But this is such a great statement right here. Because what's good for me is good for me, that doesn't mean it's good for you. Thank you for bringing that out, Dr. Lentoria. All right. All right. So what we're going to do, I'm going to segue into relationship with oneself. So I'm going to talk to Tori really fast, and then I'm going to bring you back, Dr. Reed, and we're just going to have some good old conversation. All right, Tori, you're up. So
yes, sir.
In my book, I talk about this young lady named Janie, and she looks at herself and she sees only aspects of herself that she dislikes. Can you share an instance where you felt similar, and how did you overcome that?
This is why I say you set me up, Danny. This is why I say you set me up. You knew that this part would speak directly to me. Yeah. Because there have been so many times in my life where the most critical person of me was me. The least accepting person of me was me. The most can-do spirit came from other people saying, oh, no, you can. You can do it. And I would say, but I can't. So I think coming from a place of growing up in fear of failure, in fear of not being accepted, of fear of being different, I think this Janie really spoke to me, because I know how that feels to see the worst in yourself, and other people say, well, it could always be worse, and you're thinking, don't you steal my pain from me. Don't you take this moment from me. This is my rock. I'm clinging to how hurt I am. And I want my hurt to be recognized. And I want you to know that I feel like nobody else in the world has as steep a climb as I have.
Exactly.
And this is awful. Being Tori at some point is just awful. Don't you take that from me.
Let me go into that a little bit more. I think about us sometimes as a community of people, and I think about how sometimes, again, those messages, those things that we're told. Now, we're good at telling people all the negative things about themselves, how awful you are, how you didn't hit that three-pointer, how you fumbled on that touchdown. Whatever it is, we know how to tell you how terrible you are. But it's so easy to let those things get ingrained in you. And if you don't have somebody who is pushing you up, come on now, somebody who is pulling and vying for you, saying that you are worthy, you can make it, you can take it, you can do this, you're susceptible to coming, not being that person that you should be. So I just challenge people tonight. You may be the person to encourage someone. Come on, somebody said, speak, Tori, we can be our worst enemy. This is a learned behavior from past trauma. Dr. Lynn Tori, she is putting it out there today. Trauma.
She's killing it tonight.
She's killing it.
She's killing it.
Past trauma will keep us in bondage because you talked about it earlier. You talked about the fear of not being accepted. Sometimes we look at trauma as something to where, like, you've been raped, you've been molested. No, that thing that reoccurs over and over, and it keeps you in bondage. You're ruminating, you're thinking about that thing over and over. That is trauma, that it keeps you paralyzed to where you can't do what you're supposed to do. Tracy says, I thought those thoughts in adulthood. See, we all have these messages that say who we are. Tori, I'm going to get caught up. Let me go ahead and get with you. So Maya Angelou's quote says, I long as does every human being to be at home wherever I find myself is quite profound. What does this quote mean to you, and how have you applied it to your life?
Look, I would love to be comfortable in my own skin in every situation, in every place. But many times I'm not, because there are places where I don't feel like I belong. I don't feel like my value is appreciated. I feel like in some places I'm tolerated. And so I don't feel as comfortable as I would like. For many years, I would think back to a time of being bullied. And so there were places I would not go and things I would not do, even after that bullying was long gone, because it has I've become a creature of habit. So I had to reframe my mind to say, it's okay to go and be who you are now. That bully is long gone, long gone. But we become victims to being just simply ostracized, to being belittled, of being afraid. There are people who are still afraid of the dark when there was nothing there in the first place.
Yes.
There was nothing in the dark but the unknown in the first place. And there are people right now as adults who are still afraid of the dark because they either imagined the monster or they were made to be afraid. So it's hard to unlearn what you're afraid of and what makes you feel uncomfortable.
And you're exactly right about that. It's so hard to unlearn that thing that has us fearful. And you know what sometimes will happen? Some people will come along and solidify that fear even more. They won't do any, just as I said earlier, they won't do anything to encourage you, but they will do everything to make you feel as though you're less than. And so this is the message of creating messages of connectedness and belonging, because I want people to realize, like, we got to get back to a place to where we don't just see people as it's just other. We're all together. We're people who have unique feelings, unique abilities, unique things to offer, but we don't share those things because we don't feel safe. We don't.
No.
Feel safe.
Let me ask this.
Go ahead.
How many people do you know that didn't go to their 20th or 15th or 20th high school reunion because they still hate the way that the people in the room made them feel 15, 20 years ago?
Yes.
We carry that to our graves. I'm never going back to those people, knowing that hopefully those people change for the better. But we're so afraid that somebody's going to make us relive past hurt or bring up a painful situation that we won't go to our high school reunions.
And you know that those are the things too, where, say for instance, you were talking about the bully, and at some point you got to recognize the bully had power back then, but you've gone on to do better and greater. But sometimes we still live in our past, and we give people permission to keep treating us a certain way. And I like to say, when I meet people in therapy, I give you permission to go to that next level, to be that person you're supposed to be. If it doesn't work for you, you got to get rid of it. You have to recognize that your life is your life. The characteristics that you bring are unique to you. I want to go into this real fast, Tori. It says that studies show that people who undergo serious cosmetic procedures or experience drastic weight loss often feel less happy than anticipated. All this in the book, y'all. Why do you think that is? And how can society shift its focus from physical appearance to inner contentment? And I want to go off and talk about that a little bit. I've lost weight 3, 4, 5 times, but this is what I'm being vulnerable here.
I keep finding mine. I'm
being vulnerable. Hey, look at Tori. No, I'm kidding. But no, seriously, I've done that for a couple of times. But what I've noticed is if the inner person doesn't catch up with the weight loss, you're still a fat person on the inside. And so my thing about it now is I'm looking for healthier ways to kind of have my mind and my body do the things at the same time, because if one is out of balance, it still does, it won't last as long as we think. So vice versa, we do things like this in our mental health. You know, you can start looking good or get the best job, but if you're messed up mentally, it's going to be difficult for you to perform in the way that you need to perform. Tori, you want to share?
Well, yes. When you ascend to the next level, sometimes you start to develop imposter syndrome. You start to feel like, oh my God, I'm not really good enough to be here. How did I get here? That they fell for the trick. Now they're going to see the true me and they're going to get rid of me. Exactly. So we keep putting Band-Aids on mental health. Even when with ourselves. And the one person you can't truly lie to is yourself. In your quiet moments, you start to unravel and you start to tell yourself, either I can or I can't. It's really hard for me to trick me.
Come on.
So that's the thing about self-motivation. I've got to trick myself. I've got to talk myself into another gear. And that's the hardest thing, because in my quiet moments with me, I remember things that you'll never know about me. I remember the failures. I remember the falling down. I remember the giving up. I remember the hurt. And so even if I never showed it to you, I've seen it in me. And so to let go of it now, it's a tough thing, because that thing has been an anchor on me. I'm about to be 50 years old. I'm being transparent. And if I've carried something around a hurt for 20 or 30 years, the best thing would be to let it go. But it's become a part of me now, so it's hard to let go.
But Tori, I want to ask you, I really want to pin that down. Why is it so difficult for us to let go of that thing that is our burden? Is our yoke, is keeping us away from our destiny? And I think about this as a therapist. why do we want to continue in our pain? I just dealt with this last week with a person. I'm like, you got to take care of you before you can truly take care of someone else. And so why do we put others before ourselves and see the value of everyone else before we can see the value of ourselves? Can you add to that?
Because I look from inside out. I can see the outside. I can't see my inside. Being introspective is the hardest work that you'll ever do. But I can humble myself. I can elevate myself. I can give myself warm, fuzzy feelings by helping someone else. It's a guilty pleasure to go out and help someone else and be genuine or to be submissive or to be what someone else needs. A lot of times we need someone else to do those things for us, and then we get disappointed when we don't see ourselves in the world. We don't see the volunteer coming to save us. So we try to get those feelings by going and doing that thing for other people. I will say volunteering and helping others is my guilty pleasure. I like the way it makes me feel when I make someone feel better. The hardest thing to do is to make myself feel better. I want someone to come and volunteer and save me, but they don't show up. So then you get disappointed. The hardest thing is stop expecting yourself in other people.
This is the thing that I do want to say. Sometimes we want someone to do something that we need to do for ourselves. Sometimes that's loving us, treating ourselves well. Sometimes that's buying that car that you wanted. Sometimes that's just seeing you. But I also tell my clients sometimes, I say, you got to ask yourself, if you're constantly begging a person to do something over and over again, I ask, do they have that ability? Maybe they had it at one point. True. And then what they'll realize is the person has never shown up for them that way. They just have that desire for them to show up in the way that they need. Man, you have brought out some amazing thoughts. I'm going to bring you back at the end, but I got to get Dr. Reed up in here, and we got to, man. Awesome. I want to look at some of the comments that have come up a little bit really fast. Let's see. Audience, how can you self-identify when you are unraveling, when you've been in fight or flight mode since childhood? Oh, Dr. Lentoria, come on, you giving it to us. I want to give that to the panelists. How can you do that? How can you self-identify when you're unraveling, when you've been in fight or flight mode since childhood? Dr. Reed?
Isn't that what unraveling is?
Oh.
I mean, I think I've been in fight or flight mode since childhood. I experienced every kind of abuse. So there's a part of me that's like in my self-discovery, parts work, EMDR, like whatever it might be that you're doing. I think that I am learning more and more about myself. Like, what do I love? And the interesting thing is I find that it connects me to something. Like I'll be like, oh, wait a minute. I love to hike. And I hadn't done that in quite some time. And I realized when I was little, we used to go to a nature preserve and hike on the weekends. And it's almost like a part of myself I was reintroduced to in the unraveling. It's like, oh, who am I in this fight or flight? What have I fled? What do I want to run to? And I think that's more self-identification.
That's good. That's good. That's good. Tori, I'm going to let you, do you want to take a stab at it?
The hardest thing to do is to get off the treadmill. When you're accustomed to running, the easiest thing to do is to keep running. I don't want to stop because that would break my cycle. That would break my habit. It has become a part of me to just keep moving. I don't want these bad feelings to catch up with me because I don't want to have to do the work to deal with them. I've outrun them for this long. Why should I face them now?
Wow.
So the hard thing is to just stop running.
That's good. Come on, could you just say that again? Sometimes we just have to stop. And one of the quickest exercises that I try to teach clients when I don't have a lot of time is thought stopping. I'm just like, okay, you know when you keep going down this rabbit hole where it ends up. And well, I just can't. Well, you're going to have to figure out how you're going to stop, because sometimes I do think people like those thoughts. They need to be insulated with that negativity. So I encourage you, if negativity continues to keep coming up for you, you got to stop the thought at its beginning. You don't have to go down the rabbit hole. Okay, Dr. Reed, you're up next. Tori, we're going to come back with you at the very end. But Dr. Reed, we have so much good information for you today. So today, we're both Christians. And this is just not about Christianity. For me, I am learning that respect is still respect. Mm-hmm. We have to treat other people well. So the one that I really want to start out with you is, we're back with Maya again. She said, people will forget the things you do and people will forget the things you say, but people will never forget how you made them feel. Mm. How does this quote resonate with you in the context of faith and communities?
I think people are born with an inner sense. And when you think about that, regardless, I mean, if you look at any religion, obviously you said we're Christians, but it's like any religion, there's this thing that guides you, exactly. And I'm like, you can hear what somebody says, you can see what they do, but if there's that part of you inside that doesn't resonate or feel peace or feel settled or feel whatever word you want to feel, like that speaks so much louder to me than what they would say or do, and I think I want to always strive for people to feel better in my presence, for people to say, wow, that was life-giving, not life-taking. That was something that added to, not took away from. And that was something that made me just made me better rather than made me worse, or so I think that is just she's so wise. Like that's just such a wise statement.
She is. And I always think about who was that I was telling? There was someone they're dealing with like like Alzheimer's or something like that. But one of the things I'm always reminded of, people still connect with their feelings. They know how you make them feel. They know who speaks ill of them or speaks poorly to them. They know how I don't like being around this person because they're not patient. So those are the types of things that I like. That quote for myself is, people remember how you make them feel. And your best, I think about my best teacher, my Mr. Kelly, he was my favorite teacher in 5th grade, but he was a man. He was the only man I had seen who just exuded the things that I wanted to be. He had structure, he had discipline, he had education, he had stuff like money type things. And I had never seen that. I didn't know him. I just knew what he presented, but I knew I liked how I felt in that class. Man, those were some good memories. And I love that quote because it just reminds me of that experience. So the book also mentions faith is very personal. It is the key component of many people's identity. Could you share your own experiences with faith and how it shaped your identity?
Oh, for sure. I mean, I think that I was raised in the church. So faith was an integral part of what I saw be good, bad, and ugly. I mean, I think I saw all facets of it. I didn't mention, but I have a company just for church wounds called Church Rehab. Because I think people sometimes, I don't think I've been.
Can I sign up? Can I sign up, Cassie?
No, it's literally people need rehab for the wounds that they've experienced with church. I mean, it's just so, because faith is so personal. And I think what we do is we find a personal experience with faith and then we want to make it universal. And I don't think faith is meant to be universal. I think it's built to be a personal experience. And I think it shaped my identity in terms of like, I learned how to listen to that part of myself that speaks, and in Christianity, I would say that's the Holy Spirit, like that part of myself that would say to me, Cassie, do this, don't do that. Cassie, do this, you should do that. I felt like I should get my PhD well before I even set foot into the classroom to do so. And I knew that I was kind of just going on a trajectory and I was trusting that faith faith part of myself
Come on.
to take me there, you know. And I think then I saw the doors open, because most of the time, you know, faith isn't something that we see in the moment. It's something that we do in a moment, expecting something else or looking for
Preach.
something in the future.
Preach.
And so I would have never guessed that I would get to teach or do some of the things that I got to do in the last years. And I'm not done. I've got a lot more to
Come
do, but
on.
it's like the things that I've like not, I would never imagine that. And I think it took my faith and that part, like ingesting that into myself and having that even go back to the quote that you said before. It's how people feel in your presence. It's the security that you have in your faith and who you are is something that's palpable out to other people. If you're insecure and you don't feel comfortable and you're not in your skin and you just kind of aren't comfortable, which no shame in that.
Exactly.
I'm still working on myself,
All
but but I think it's like you feel that differently than
You
somebody who knows.
You do. I think about my experience when I was working with you at the time, and I was working at the hospital, and I would see a number of young people come in there with different issues and hopeless, suicidal, having difficulty with family members, just looking at their charts, some tragic experiences. But the one common thing that I noticed in many of their charts is they didn't believe in anything. They didn't believe in anything higher than themselves. And I want to go a step further. I feel like, you know, even in our religious practices, you know, we have God, but there are semblances of God through us. If our parents are not there, come on. If our parents are not there, those supports, those people who really see us, those people who are really supposed to know us and pour into us, how do we become? How do we ever learn how to trust? And then I think about my relationship with the Father is one that I can look to. I need something to look for bigger than me. And so I always knew, I'm like, I don't know, I don't care honestly what you believe in, but I always believe that you have to believe in something bigger than yourself. That's what faith means to me.
100%.
Come on, boy, we are cooking with grease. We are cooking with grease. Now, the book shares an experience of a church shifting and some demographics and how it impacted the culture and sound of the community. Have you witnessed or been a part of such transformations? How did it shape your perspective on faith and diversity? I want to lead into that one a little bit before we talk, Cassie. I've been a part of many churches. I grew up like Baptist church, old country roads. It was hot in there. Wasps would try to knock us down. And I mean, we're up in there sweating. And then I moved on to a more progressive church in the city. I thought I had arrived. And so I go on and I'll say this. You said something earlier about how sometimes our gifts, they unravel and they're showing us different things. Music has put me into places I never thought I would have gone. And so I went to Tallahassee and I was a part of a large multiracial church. It was one of the best experiences I had ever had. I felt like I got to integrate my classical training, my love for hymns and gospel music in one setting. And I love the teaching of the sermons. And I also love just, you know, the fieriness of the sermons. And I love the balance. And so sometimes I just think about, you know, culture is what you make it. And I think I love having a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and this over here and this over there. And I also think about if we want to reach more people, we have to look at the demographics that are a part of our congregations. Dr. Reed, I'm going to go ahead and let you go on that and share a little bit with us.
Yeah, you know, I think I hear you talk about that and it's like I want to go there. You know, I want to go there. I just want to like be in that space where there's like such unity, because I really think that's what that is. It's like that, like you have unity in that space where it doesn't matter your background. It doesn't matter that you started in the country church or
Exactly.
whatever it was that you did. It's like
Church
you
salad.
are there. I like a good potluck. That's
Come on.
like
Yes.
yeah, like I think that what's happened with that is when that culture shifts, it's because people are not listening to or looking at the demographic at all. I think what we do is we create this pie in the sky. Like, this is what we want our church to be like.
Yes.
And we get this vision of what that is, where the reality is we aren't looking around. Like, what do people want to hear? What do they want to hear messages about? What kind of music do they want to hear? What kind of things do they want a potluck? I love a good potluck. I grew up in West Virginia. I mean, we did some serious, like, that was how we lived in the fellowship hall with potluck. And it's, I think we've gotten away from that. Where it's like churches now, it's like, no, we don't do that. That's weird. People no, it's community and it's vulnerability. And like, this is what I can bring to the table. And you know what? We're all going to surround it regardless of what you bring.
Exactly.
And I think we lose sight of that because we no longer respect the gifts of everyone.
I want to add to what you just said, Dr. Reed. I was thinking about, like, now we have the praise team. Well,
I just laughed out loud. I'm sorry.
Because I'm going to go there. But I think about back in the day, we had church choirs. Now, I always could sing. My family members could sing. So we could probably get a spot on the praise team. But I love the choir for that reason, that the person who just enjoyed singing, they wanted to be a part. They wanted to go somewhere. They wanted to find some community. They could be a part of the choir. But what we've come to now is, and I'll even say it even in the church I was talking about earlier, the praise team is on the forefront. They're almost like celebrities. And I remember I talked to a parishioner at one of the large church I went to, and she said, man, I love it here, but it's just so big. And I just don't feel like I can connect. And I'm like, in my mind at that time, I'm like, why don't you feel that way? Well, you don't feel that way, Danny, because you're on the platform. You're close to the pastor. You're close to leadership. And sometimes we forget how it feels to not be a part of those intricate parts of the church. Do you want to share anything with that?
Yeah. Can I make a confession?
Please.
Right here.
Please.
So it's interesting. I actually engaged in music. Like, I was almost a music minor in college, like took voice lessons forever. Like, that was like a huge part of my life. And so I went to a large church where they had the praise team, and I tried out and I didn't make it. And honestly, I've never sung since.
Wow.
Like this, I mean, like, I would sing the national anthem at hockey games and, like I was in competitions and like did all kinds of things, with vocal things. And ever since then, I never did that or had that be part of my life again. And it's interesting because I wonder the number of people, and I know my story, I'm just thinking about that as you're sharing it, because it's like, we make this celebrity thing of like, we're on the front line, or we're the people that get chosen. And it's like, what happens to the people who have a gift who could, but think about a choir. That sound is so good because it's just the blending of all the people.
Little things like that really can do damage to our self-esteem and our ability to try again.
Yeah.
And you said something I was just thinking about when you talked about, it's almost a celebrity kind of thing now. And I had to check myself because I'm like, I wasn't with the other people, because you have to be ready to perform. And so I totally get that. And Jasmine, okay. Well, let's look at this one. I want to bring Jasmine, can we bring everyone back? I want to get everybody back on the platform and to just talk a little bit more. It talks about trauma. This is how subtle trauma can be that has a profound impact. Man, you guys are just like cooking with grease tonight. Like it's so much good stuff I just want to get into, but I know we're all people of faith, so I want to kind of come back here and get to this. Lastly, the reflection question invites readers to ponder their relationships with faith and how they foster a sense of belonging in their religious community. Could you share responses to these questions? How do you foster a sense of belonging in your religious community? That's to you both. Tori,
ladies first.
Oh,
I think.
Oh, okay.
Tori.
Dr. Reed had just finished. I want to give her a break, so I'm going to start with you.
Oh,
okay. Sure. How do I foster a sense of belonging in my own sense of belonging, or to others? Do you mean externally or internally?
To
others.
Mm-hmm. In the church, in the
once again
religious community.
Be genuine and give the invitation. Send the invitation. Look, I have been in churches that are so church bougie where people didn't feel welcome because they didn't dress. They didn't dress the way that most of the people dressed. Where you didn't make the praise team, or if you didn't belong to the right small group, or if you went to 8 o'clock instead of the main service. You know, there's so much division in church. The easiest thing would be to be Christ-like and be genuine and just love people where they are, meet their needs where they are, not trying to raise them to any level or expectation for the church. Meet them where they are.
Meet them where they are.
And I think that's the thing. Church has become a place, like you said, of celebrity. It's part of a production now. It's the lighting. It's who's preaching today. It's who, which songs are they gonna sing? What is it gonna be like now? It's almost like you need a ticket to get to church. But the original church was wherever you are, however you hurt, I'm gonna meet you where you are, and we're gonna get you feeling better. So I think we've gotten into the production value of the church, and we're not producing Christians anymore. We're producing concert goers.
Tori, I want to segue over here to Dr. Reed because I got a few more things I got to get to. So Dr. Reed, would you share with us a little bit?
That made me want to run a lap.
Come on.
Pentecostal. That made me want to run a lap right there.
On.
No, you know what? It's so true, because I think what happens is we build this thing where we want to seen and be seen, and who's going to be the better offer. I think this exists in and outside the church, right? So it's having people to your house for dinner and not worrying that there's going to be somebody, quote unquote, that people would say is better that you should invite instead. And I think there's just so much about community. Like there's just so much about inviting people, like you said, welcome, come into my space, know who I am, and having them for dinner, or taking them out to dinner, or just going after church for coffee or whatever it might be. Come sit with me, meet me at the door and sit next to me this week. Whatever it is, it's finding people and connecting and making church be what it should be, and I think that's it's so needed, to not worry about what the next best thing is, or who's the celebrity, quote unquote, that you're missing talking to because you're standing there talking to someone. Well, you never know who you're going to be talking to.
You never know. Well, I was thinking about this. This is my final thought with that. Bring the church choirs back without the mess. I'm going to leave it at that. Bring the church choirs back without the mess. I would leave it at that. Now, my last and final question for you both. The book encourages practicing self-love and self-compassion. How do you define these terms, and how have they impacted your life? And before you guys go, I want you guys to really listen to this conversation that we're having. My book talks about all of these things. My book talks about, just seeing people for who they are in those different spaces. And I know a lot of diversity and equity books, they don't get into the different parts of who we are. There's the workplace, there's the relationship with yourself, there's our faith community. we got to start including people and seeing people again. And it really starts with us. So I want to leave that question to you guys. And you can get that book at themessages.net/connection. Audio, paperback, and you can get Kindle. Get the book. So I'm going to read it again. The book encourages practicing self-love and self-compassion. How do you define these terms, and how have they impacted your life? Dr. Reed, I'll let you start.
Don't be afraid to fail. I think self-love and self-compassion comes through trial and error. It comes through making a mistake, missing it, not having to be perfect. And I think for me, growing up in church culture was very much conditional. It was you're right or wrong, you're black or white, you're yes or no. And I really feel like that's not where God is. Nowhere in scripture does it say he smites you if you don't do the right thing right away, And I think for me, it was learning that I didn't have to be perfect all the time. The self-compassion and self-love look like mistakes. It looked like days where I didn't want to put on a stitch of makeup. I didn't want to get dressed. I didn't want to do anything fancy. I just wanted to go, and being able to do that and not worrying about judgment, just loving myself more than loving the person that was going to see me or have something to say about me or whatever. And I think authenticity, I love what you said, because one of the things that I teach my students and my interns or anyone is I want to be the same person. And I hope this is true. Like when you and I have lunch, or when you and I, or when I see my daughter, or when I'm with my friends having a drink, or if I'm at teaching at school, or if I'm in sessions, I am the same person across all of those places. And that's my life goal, is to not have a face that I put on at church, or a face that I put on at the market, or a face that I put on at home, but that I am the same across all the places.
You're gonna make me hit you. You know, in the church sometimes we throw stuff at you when you're talking good.
Where's your shoe? I grew up like this.
Come on. Hey, I got a shoe right here. I'm gonna throw it at you, Dr. Reed. Or y'all talking to me tonight.
I do want to hear from you, Tori. Tori, you got 2 minutes. 2 minutes. Talk to us about that same.
Okay. Self-love is so difficult. It's so difficult because I see something different in the mirror than probably 70% of the world. It's harder for me to accept me, so it's harder for me to love me. In the alone time, it's hard for me to turn my thought life off. It's hard for me to stop speaking negatively of myself. But I have to understand that God loves me, warts and all. The Bible said he knows the hairs on my head. So if he knows me that well, if I start to be more like him, then I can love me. So loving me is essential, because like one of the comments said, hurt people. So if I don't want to be a hurt and I want to be a help, I've got to get help. So that's why I come to people like you. We've got to take the stigma away that getting help and getting therapy is not allowed. It's not going to tell some stranger your business. I like talking to strangers. If I'm never going to see you again, I can tell you anything, because you're never going to see me again anyway. But I think therapy is so crucial. We've got to get out of the old church where, just tell it to Jesus. Just tell it to Jesus. Sometimes God has blessed a person to work a miracle in your life right there where you are. Who did he send? As Naaman to wash 7 times. So that means that there's a procedure to get healed, not just I said so be healed. Sometimes you got to go to the therapy session and get your washing 7 times. So therapy has washed me so many times. So I'm very thankful for your profession. It's a helping out there, and we've got to get away from thinking that you're weak or crazy if you go to a therapist.
Yeah, guys,
So,
I gotta go. You guys, seriously, this has been a phenomenal night. It has gone better than I could have even expected. Dr. Reed, Tori, y'all bring so much. I mean, I love the diversity of thought, but it's so in line with each other. I want you guys to really listen to this. And I don't want you to just listen to it tonight. I want you to listen to it again and again and take something from what we've shared tonight. Take something from this and share it with someone else. Take something from this and share it with your community members, somebody who's feeling down and out. Let them know that there are people who care. Let them know that there are ways that they can receive the healing and they can get those healings. But we also have to be people who encourage and not necessarily beat people down. I am so delighted that you all came to spend part of your evening with me tonight. And I want to offer you this book one last time. We got audio for y'all people who don't like to read. We got paperback and we got ebook. Go to themessages.net/connection. Give it up to our producer for this evening, Jasmine Smith, and her production company. Phenomenal. We absolutely love what you guys do to make us look good and sound good and do a great show. Thank you guys for coming. Don't forget, tomorrow we're going to start bright and early at 7 p.m. We're going to be talking about belonging in schools with my guest, Virginia Campbell, Pernell Bush, belonging in the workplace. And again, thanks to my special guest. I look forward to seeing you tomorrow, and we're going to have a really amazing conversation tomorrow again. Talk to you soon. Have a great night.